Are you a pilgrim that's walked the Camino de Santiago? Could be any of the Caminos. If so, please send us a message on our Pilgrims Podcast Facebook page because I would love to interview you. I'm always looking for new guests for the podcast. And as a thank you, I will give you a copy of my Camino de Santiago memoir, The Only Way is West. It's a bestseller in the humorous essays and travelogue categories in the UK, in Australia and Canada, and also a bestseller in sports essays, ecotourism and literary travel in the USA. So please get in touch, and like I said, as a thank you, I'll give you a free copy of my book, The Only Way is West, which currently on Amazon has 73 reviews and 4.8 out of 5. So that's the announcements over with. Let's get into the podcast. A wandering wanderer, a life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer. Hello there, once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation, and packing for walking El Camino de Santiago, as well as tips, tricks, and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. We're going to put more bounce in your boots, more K's in your days, take the grim out of the pilgrimage. To that end, we are talking to a lovely lady from the UK, England to be precise. Janine Lytham has walked the Camino del Norte all the way from Biarritz to Finisterre in June 2018. So Janine, please take us back to the time and the place that you first decided to walk the Camino and tell us why.
Yeah, so hello, and thank you for having me on your show. Um, gosh, taking me back to 2000, and in fact, no, it was 2015. I had just finished reading the book called Wild. It's a memoir by Cheryl Strand. And it talks about her journey through the Pacific Coast Trail. It's also a book that they turned into a film. But, you know, I preferred the book. And that just sort of ignited something inside of me that I hadn't felt in quite a long time, actually. And there was something inside there was a quote in the book that just started making me think a little bit harder. And it said something like, I'm a free spirit who never had the balls to be free. And I just kept thinking back to that quote because it just really resonated with me at the time. So many people had told me, gosh, Janine, you're a free spirit. What are you doing? Get out there. And I was always sort of confined to the place I was living in, even though I knew that my life before that had always sort of involved travel, even from quite a young age. And that kind of sort of lingered in my thoughts. And then for Christmas, actually, in 2014, I asked for a subscription of National Geographic. And, it came, I got it. And then I think it was May. It was the May edition that arrived. And I was just, browsing through it on a Sunday like you do. And there was this article called The Way. And it was a picture of two Roman Catholic brothers in the countryside wearing that sort of brown linen robe look. And it was just that beautiful view of the hills. And you had these two brothers standing in the midst of everything. And I don't know why, but again, I just sort of went, this sounds amazing. And they do look really strange. But imagine if I was there, what would I say to them? What would I have anything in common with them? And all these sort of like exciting sort of, things were running through my mind, but it was just the excitement that something that was a little bit closer to home, because the Pacific Coast Trail it was a bit far out, a bit too wild. It was something close enough for me that felt tangible that I could do. So it was then, I don't know why, I just decided that I am going to walk the Camino. And I hadn't done any research. I hadn't done anything. It was just something that I had decided it was going to be for me. And this was my adventure. And And then I sort of told people about it, people that I thought might be like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. And no one really had anything nice to say to me about it, apart from, oh gosh, Janine, that's people have died doing the Camino. And I was like, really? And it was sort of like, oh, are you going to be able to do it? It's quite a tough challenge, Janine. Are you sure? And I just never really considered it to be something that would be a struggle for me, even though, it is for some. I just thought, I don't care what people think, I'm going to do it. So I looked into it and I realized, you know what, it's going to take me 6 weeks really to complete this properly, because I really liked the idea of having a passport and it being stamped along the way, and it was yours, and it was something quite special to you. And I didn't want to just do 2 weeks out of the 6 and then go back and revisit it later. I'm sort of someone that's all in. If I'm going to do something, that's how I like to, how to live my life. And so I just parked the idea. I just sort of thought, well, it's clearly not the right time. And then, fast forward 3 years later, my life sort of changed quite dramatically. And in some ways, I'd call it sort of like a tower moment where, everything around it kind of came crumbling down. You have all these expectations and things just weren't going in the sort of plan, the way that I'd sort of expected them to in life. So I decided that I was just going to start afresh. And I know it sounds a bit cliche, but, I did the thing where I decided to quit my job, and I just wanted to go on an adventure. And my first starting point for me was the Camino. And that's when I did it. So June the 1st, 2018, I got on a plane to France.
Right, so what I want to go over a little bit later in this interview is what exactly were those things that were the catalyst for you deciding that you were actually going to go and walk it. So we're going to leave that cooking for a little bit. But right now I'm going to ask you, once you'd made the decision to walk the Camino del Norte, which is not, by all accounts, from what we've heard on this podcast and what I've read about it, it's not an easy one to start with. It's long, as far as I've read, and it's also got lots of steep gradients and hills and wild countryside. How did you get in shape for it?
Good question. Well, actually, I didn't. And I'll tell you the reasons why. I hadn't planned on doing the Camino del Norte. I had bought the book for the French way because, as you may have sort of noticed, I hadn't really sort of done much planning. I just decided I wanted to do the Camino, and I hadn't even considered that there might be more than one way to do. And I remember I was on the plane to France, and I was sat next to quite a lot of people that were all doing the same way as me, the French way at the time. And something in me just said, no, I don't think this is what you want to do. But I didn't understand at that point that there was other ways until I got to the hostel in Biarritz. And I got chatting to this really lovely girl from Sweden who just chewed my ear off about the North Way. And everything that she said to me, every sort of the words really resonated with me in terms of, it's going to be along the coast. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be different. And that's how I end up doing the North Way. It was never part of my plan. So in terms of getting fit, let me tell you, I wish I had thought about this earlier on. So in hindsight, yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I would have done if I had, done my training in advance.
Enlighten us.
So this is not for everyone, but I think this is something that should be considered. It's actually to start practicing yoga. Some people out there are just like, no, not for me, not into that sort of stuff. But actually, what it really helps you understand is it allows you to be aware of what is right for you. So, one of the key things about yoga is it's not about pushing yourself to the point where you're breaking. It shouldn't hurt. It's not about competing with yourself. And in some ways that's quite similar to the Camino. You're not supposed to push yourself to the point of extreme pain, because what happens is you become injured, and then you're not actually enjoying that experience fully. So yoga is a good one to start with, so you're able to engage your body, you understand what your limits are, and you start to be more aware of, okay, that hurts, I should stop, rather than I'm just going to push through that pain until I'm at breaking point. So yoga,
it allows you to get in tune with your body. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
To listen to your body, eat a bit better. You get better at listening to your body if you do yoga.
Absolutely.
Now, do you do yoga regularly?
I do.
So imagine someone hasn't done yoga before, Janine. What discipline, style of yoga should they start with? Would it be hatha yoga? Would it be Ashtanga? Would it be standing in a sauna at 100 degrees, making your muscles flexible? I'm guessing it wouldn't be the latter, but what would you recommend for that?
I would say, rather than kind of picking a type of yoga, I would just say, just take yourself to a class, just pick one, any. It all kind of works in the same principle. So just pick one that you feel resonates with you. And it's just understanding how to start breathing, connecting to the flow of your breath, and maybe just picking one that allows you to, stretch. You can, there's so many different types. One's which is more about breathing, stretching, and understanding different parts of your body. Any of those are suitable, because it's not, you can't always sort of target every pinpoint all at one go, but at least it allows you that sort of, you can tick at least one of those 3 off the list, and it will still be of benefit to you along the way. So, yeah. So
definitely you'd incorporate some yoga into your training. I mean, we've heard many different approaches to training, and more often than not, they involve walking with a weighted pack to the distance you're probably going to cover on your first day, and doing that at least 3 or 4 times before you go. Walking with the same pack that you're going to walk with, because there's such a thing as shoulder blisters, as mentioned by our Camino coach Cassie Childers at Rail in episode 30 or 31, I think it was. We've also mentioned wearing the same clothes that you wear on the Camino as well, because sometimes you might buy a new jumper or a new pair of trousers and there's some label that you don't like and it gets on your nerves. So it's about doing as much of a dress rehearsal of that first day as possible, but also, like you say, you can complement that with a bit of yoga for the reasons that you've heard from Janine there. So good advice there, Janine. Thanks for that.
And I've got some more, actually.
Please do. Yeah. The floor is yours. I've got to come up with a new line. I keep saying that one, but yeah, go for it.
The second one that I would say is start considering the distances and how far you might walk per day. It's just sort of like get into that feeling of, right, okay, for example, when you're doing the Camino del Norte, perhaps sometimes there are days where you really do have to walk 15K. You don't have a choice, because there will not be somewhere for you to stay. So you have to kind of get into that mindset of, okay, well, what happens if I do have to walk 20K? Can I actually walk 20K? So what I would suggest is just to test it out by planning some distant walks. And, you can do it by, just getting out with a bunch of friends and just planning a route for a day and just seeing how that feels. Another way is, if you want to sort of get into that momentum, is, just join a walking group. It's just sort of learning how to sort of deal with the different gradients, different sort of, things that might not seem a big deal at the time, but they can be later on. So it's just getting into that sort of motion before you go, which is helpful. And I think the third one that I would say, which I really wish I'd done, because I'm not that physically unfit, but I tell you what, you're going to have to deal with some huge gradients on the North Camino del Norte, which I hadn't even considered the scale of them. So I would say try and start, I know it sounds really, just build lunges into, start doing lunges, whether that's 5-10 minutes before you go to work every day, but just start to do a little bit as you can every day. And like you said, Brad, ankle weights are really good just to sort of build up that strength, because, it is it's not easy to begin with. And if you can just try and do that sooner rather than later, it might just change your perspective in your first couple of weeks when you're walking the Camino.
Great advice there, Janine. Thanks for that. And I like what you said specifically about the community, some community support by maybe joining a walking group as well. That could always spur you on, and you're held accountable between the members of your group as well. And obviously you can pick up some tips and ideas from maybe more experienced walkers, people that have done stuff that you're about to do. So that's a really, really nice tip as well. And I fear for how your feet were acclimatizing during the first few days, maybe the first week. That's when the body seems to be breaking itself in, and where those pain points seem to come out the most. How were your feet the first few days? Did you get any blisters, any blister and foot care tips?
I mean, I can't tell you. I was crumbling, and I mean, I never thought it could get this bad, but it did. And I look back at that time and just think, my God, how did he get through it? Because I mean, I could barely walk. And
was this because of blisters?
This was because of lack of training for what I was taking on. I mean, first of all, I remember I walked from Biarritz to Irun on my first day. I didn't class that was just my tester day. And I was carrying about 15, 16K on my back. And my gosh, I tell you what, that alone set it off. You don't realize the heavier your bag, it just kind of pulls down on your whole body, all the way down to your feet. So that's tip number one. Do not do what I did.
Don't carry so much. Yeah, I mean, really, if you can get your backpack to around about 6 kilograms, that I think is optimal. And with food and water, it would weigh around about 7.5.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then you're in the sweet spot to walk with comfort. I think.
And I once I did that day, I sent all my stuff by post to Santiago to meet me at the end, because it just wasn't worth it. The second thing I would say is it rained significantly for about a week straight. And I hadn't even thought about the type of socks I would bring with me. And again, I would say, if you can find some form of waterproof sock, just as a backup, there's no harm in just having it as just in case. Because it is horrible when you're just soaked through. It doesn't matter how much you're trying, it just doesn't make a difference. A good pair of hiking trainers, or a pair of boots with good ankle support. The most important thing is not everyone has got great ankle support. A lot of people do have weak ankles. So try and, look after them as much as you can, because, long-term damage is not what you want to do. Cheap tip is I use Vaseline actually to protect my feet every day. Try and every night. You will get into this sort of momentum as you go along, because you'll see a lot of people doing it as well. Is at the end of every night, you really sort of look after your feet. Your feet are number one. You moisturize them, cover them in Vaseline. You just make sure there's nothing left that hasn't been covered in Vaseline. Definitely buy a blister pack. You can get them everywhere. Amazon, you can buy the pack on there. Just buy it, because it doesn't matter how good feet you have. You never know. It's amazing how, you can just find blisters that you never even thought you'd ever get in places you'd never even looked. So on your feet, buy a blister pack. Another thing is supportive insoles. Sometimes actually, you can sort of get it can be quite painful underneath, just sort of in the middle of your foot. Like it's kind of like a twinging sort of pain sometimes that you can get. And it might be a case of you need a nice pair of insoles just to help you out. So yeah, those are my key tips on, taking care of your feet.
So waterproof socks, blister pack, inner soles as well, and making there's some good ankle support on your footwear, whether you're choosing boots or whether you're choosing trail runners. Those are Janine's tips. Thanks, Janine. Now let's talk about, we've mentioned some of the things you sent to Santiago, and we'll maybe cover a couple of those in a second, but what will be the 3 most important things in your packing list? Were you to walk the Camino again? I know in our pre-interview chat you said you were going to, what you were planning on, you had one eye on the Camino Portuguese. So imagine you're going to do that again. What would be the first 3 things at the top of your kit list, apart from the backpack, the shoes and the socks?
I mean, are these like, the practical things, or,
they're your things, Janine, what you would take. And it could be whatever you want them to be. Okay,
this is completely off track. So,
it could be personal, it could be, a guilty pleasure, whatever.
Yeah, mine aren't so sensible, but as a woman, you'll realize it is important, actually. So number 1, I would say your journal. Take your journal. It's just, you'll love it when you get back and you read through some of the things you've written down. Number 2, it sounds really silly, but a disposable camera, because sometimes, you're in the moment and, you don't want to have your phone with you all the time, but you just want to take some pictures which you don't really want to keep going over and scanning over and checking and deleting because someone doesn't like it. But disposable camera, you can take loads of funny pictures, and the best part is when you get back, you can develop the film and see what you've got. And it's just, those are kind of like these keepsake memories that, you will never be able to, no one else will have it. It will be really special. A disposable camera. And the third one for the ladies, it sounds ridiculous, but just take one nice dress. It doesn't have to be fancy, but just one nice dress amongst, your one pair of shorts and your T-shirt, because there will just be one night where you're just like, I just want to just not wear these same, stringy vest top and my shorts, which I've worn for nearly 3 weeks, when you're going out for a meal. And, it's just something I'd recommend.
I'm sure my wife would agree with you on that one as well. And I would certainly agree with you on the disposable camera, because I'm, as many listeners of the podcast will know, I'm loath to carry my phone with me on the Camino. I just like to have a complete break from technology as much as possible. And I would also agree with you on the journal as well, because I on the last Camino, my wife and I, we just had these little exercise books that weigh next to nothing, and you could just jot all the main events of the day, what happened into there when you're finished and when you're having your Pilgrim menu while you're waiting for your food to come. And that's I would agree with all of those. Not sure I could get a dress on, but yeah, my wife would definitely agree. And it's funny because in our first podcast, the very first interview, we had a lovely American lady called Tierra, and she said she likes to carry a scarf just so she can feel a bit girly at the end of the day. So
I think that's a great one.
Yeah, and I think in episode 16, a lovely lady from Los Angeles, Rachel Smith, she said, pack the least amount of things you need to be comfortable. So if you're comfortable with those things, you don't have to justify it to anybody, as long as you're enjoying it. If you've got a guilty pleasure and that disposable camera or that dress is your guilty pleasure, then it's all good. Talking about favourite things like your dress and your camera, what would you, an albergue that you stayed in along the Camino del Norte that you'd recommend others stop at as well?
Oh, this is a hard one, actually. I think there was 2 that really stood out for me rather than one.
Go for it. You can pick 2. That's fine.
Okay, thanks. So the first one that really, and I'm sure people say this all the time because I don't know, it's just incredible. It's the one in Güemes, and it's run by Father Ernesto.
Can you spell that, please? Güemes.
Güemes, G-W-E... Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, no, it's not. G-W... Güem... Oh, I can't find it. I've written it down because it's not spelt how it's said, if that makes sense.
Would it be G? I tell you what, I'll look at it. Don't worry. You just tell us more or less where it is and any kind of distinctive features about it, and I shall do my detective work.
Thank you. So it is run by Father Ernesto, and it is, I would say, the pinnacle of the North Route Camino. So he comes from a line of pilgrims, and he's created this incredible albergue which encompasses everything about your Camino experience. He spent a lot of his life in South America and Africa, and obviously Spain. And I think when you've had that experience of so many different diverse worlds, you're able to not shy away from the deeper questions of life because you've seen so much. And it allows him to really sort of help pilgrims through their experience. So you'll walk in and it's this beautiful grounds. You're welcomed in by so many different helpers and volunteers. You're getting a drink on arrival. And it was such a special place, just in terms of how I was treated. And you walk around the site and there's murals on the wall that tell stories, and it really kind of brings back to like the philosophy of the pilgrim life, and it really helps people understand why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this trip? So it was just a beautiful place where people could really share their life and their travel stories. And it brought up a lot of, I guess for you, the best way to describe it is, for say an average traveler who hasn't been open to see a lot of what the world offers, we can sort of not want to talk about things which are quite uncomfortable. And one of the things that Ernesto really highlights is that, everyone is allowed at the table. And it's sort of that quote as there's no discrimination in terms of who you are, what color you are. Everyone has a seat at the table. And I think that kind of really hit home to a lot of people, because he really talks about his experiences in, Africa and South America. And a lot of people haven't been exposed to those sort of issues that some people might have in life. So it really makes you look at your own story, your own journey, and question your own identity and who you are and how you've got to this place, which I loved. I really loved that.
So the Albergue Güemes, where Father Ernesto is the hospitalero and makes you feel very welcome, affords you that, shall we say, pastoral care, and which, from everything you've said, it seems like a really good point to stop and reflect on your journey so far. That's one recommendation. What was the next one you wanted to mention, Janine?
The next one, actually, so it was an albergue, and it was called Santa Cruz Banana, I think. Banana. Yeah, say it again.
Sorry, I said banana. Berana, Santa Cruz Berana. We'll go for that one, and I'll have a look at that. It sounds like it's a Verano.
Oh, it's actually a B, Berana.
Santa Cruz Berana. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll look that up and stick a link to that on our Facebook page as well. Camino de Santiago Pilgrims Podcast. Tell us about that one. Why you recommend it?
Absolutely fantastic. It was just totally unexpected. When you kind of enter an albergue and you're sort of in that rhythm of things, and you're in a mindset where you're not, you're sort of traveling in sort of like this gray zone where it's going to take you a while to get to that next big place, and you're not expecting anything exciting at this albergue, and it just completely surprised me. It was absolutely beautiful. You'd go in and it was this cozy little house, but it had all those sort of home comforts that you need. Like if you wanted to play an instrument, there would be an instrument there for you, whatever it was that you wanted to play. The host could speak so many different languages. She was just sort of very vibrant and lovely. And they had this gorgeous table in the kitchen that could probably fit about maybe up to 20 people. And they prepared this incredible meal for everyone. I cannot describe how amazing it looked. You know, there was goat's cheese put out on everyone's plate. You know, like an omelette-y tortilla starter, salads, everything was just beautifully presented. And it was just the effort and detail that went into this albergue that really kind of, you know, really got me. It was so clean and so cozy, and you really felt like you were really part of a family. And what I liked about it, it was one where I didn't have to, it wasn't a set price, it was based on a donation. And I was really taken aback by it because it was just, the standards were just incredible. And I would highly recommend staying there.
So it was the Albergue Santa Cruz Verana, and I've just looked up as well, Janine, it was the Hostel La Cabaña del Abuelo Pueto, and that is in Güemes, which is spelled Guemes. So Guemes, and that's where Father Ernesto is the hospitalero and makes you feel welcome. Two great recommendations there. Thank you so much, Janine. Now, from a favourite albergue to a favourite city, town or village along the Camino del Norte that you'd recommend people must stop at when they go there.
Oh, this is a tough one as well. There's so many.
Yes. We're trying to get out all the juicy details.
Okay, so let me think back to, so we're on the coastal way, obviously, is just a massive bonus for those who love to be by the sea. But there was one area which was in, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Llanes. It's actually spelt double L-A-N-N-E-S, I think. But
Llanes,
yeah. Yes. And you've got these incredible views of the beach. And there was this stunning view of this beach called Playa de la Balota. And I would highly recommend going there and just it's so, well, you will go there if you're going on that route, but it's beautiful. And the sunsets in that area are just insane. I cannot describe how amazing it is to watch the sunset from there. It's nothing else like I've seen. So highly recommend it.
So Llanes and Playa de la Pelota, right? That's what you said?
Yeah.
And that's it translates in English as the football beach, strangely. But so, yeah. So maybe go there and play a bit of football and enjoy those amazing sunsets. Thanks, Janine. Now, we're going to launch into some quick fire questions. So we might have covered this already, but just in case there's another one. Favourite Camino blog, vlog, book and or film?
I'll push you. A Camino journey of 500 miles, 2 best friends and 1 wheelchair. You can find it on Vimeo.
I've heard of that and I've heard it's amazing as well. Favourite food and or drink on the Camino?
Oh, gosh, that's so hard. Okay, favorite drink, cider. Oh, my gosh, loved it. I love the way they pour the cider. I would say the tapas. The tapas available in the Basque region is just incredible.
So try the tapas. They're called pinchos, they call them there.
Pinchos, that's the one.
That's right.
Loved it.
So try the tapas, the pinchos. One thing you wished you'd packed. Maybe that's wrong because you sounds like you took the kitchen sink with you, but...
Tell you what, one thing I wish I'd packed was 2 poles, not 1.
You took 1 pole?
I took 1 pole.
Interesting. Are you going to play some cricket along the way or something, or just...
Honestly, if I had a picture of myself on this Camino, I hope you're kind of putting the picture together. It wasn't pretty in any way.
But it was full of character and passion and enthusiasm, and that's all that matters. That can carry you a long way. So take 2 poles, not 1. One thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again. Sounds like there was a lot, but could you give us 1 or 2 things maybe?
Yeah, I took my my laptop, which I carried with me for the whole of the Camino.
Okay, right. So no mobile phone, but a laptop. I could see you thought this through, Janine. Okay. Did you find that one word in Spanish came in especially useful more than others?
Oh, I tell you what. Well, there's quite a few. Everything can get very lost in translation, I've realised, and there's a few stories there. But I mean, I would say despacito, slow. Because the amount of times, if you do need to understand what someone is saying, if you're a little bit lost or you just want to ask something, they just, if Spanish is not the easiest language for you, then just try that word. It might help.
And you can even sing it to people as well. So that's another way to be instantly understood. Despacito. Anyway, favorite thing about the Camino?
Favorite thing about the Camino? You know what I really loved about the Camino is, you get to your destination at the end of an evening, in the evening, and it was that feeling, that sort of such a feeling of satisfaction once you've had your shower and you sat down, and you're just surrounded by people who you've been walking with or bumping into along the way that day. And all of a sudden, you're all at the same albergue and you're all sat round the table having dinner. And it is just this incredible feeling of all being together and just watching people's faces and seeing just like the happiness and the stories that they share. It's really lovely to watch and be part of.
I think the Camino, just to add to that as well, it really recalibrates your happiness threshold as well. You find immeasurable pleasure in things that you otherwise would never have found pleasure in, and just that feeling of sitting your bum down at the end of the day is like, this is heaven. So it's one of my favorite things too. On the contrary, what would be the hardest thing on the Camino for you?
The hardest thing I think on the Camino is it's actually, for me, this was what I felt on the Camino del Norte was, you're fighting against nature, and that's hard when you can't change nature, and it's something that you have to mentally sort of work through. I mean, the amount of times where we are just literally knee deep in mud, just trying to get past, trying to get to the next stage. Our poles are sort of stuck in the mud. Everything is wet. There are so many times where it was nature that I was angry with. And you can't, fighting against nature is one of those which you have to sort of let go of and realize, no, this is the beauty of it. It's not, don't fight it.
Dance with it.
Yeah.
How cheesy was that? Dance with nature.
Yes.
Very cheesy. Right. Forgive me for that, listeners, please. Okay. No, I mean, I completely agree with you. And I wonder if like the yoga came in handy with that as well, because I think for me personally, and I mentioned this to my wife as well, is that when you walk and you turn off your mobile phone and slowly but surely you start to reunite yourself with not only nature and all the sights, sounds, smells and sensations going on around you, but you unite your mind with your movement, with your body as well. And to me, that's really, really powerful, that actually it's like I'm taking notice of everything I'm seeing, smelling, everything I'm feeling in my body. And to me, that is part of that recalibrating of the happiness that happens little by little as you go day by day along the Camino. And would you say that the yoga helps you with that as well?
I think it does. And it's one of those that's quite difficult actually, because it depends where you are on your journey, because you're going through so much that the first week is just a battle of survival, I would say. You're just trying to survive. And then as the weeks go by, you sort of, it's like an onion, you peel the layers it's like one day you can start to hear things that you haven't heard. Next day you can start to see things and you can start to feel things. And it is that sort of process of kind of going through that momentum where you can sort of see the bigger picture. So yes, the yoga does help, but I'd say it starts to kick in a little bit. It doesn't kick in straight away. Mm-mm. It kicks in a little bit down in the middle of your experience.
And just while we're still on the long fire round. We're going to do a quick fire round, but we've gone long fire. That's fine. A restaurant that you can recommend that your fellow pilgrims stop at.
Oh, a restaurant. I would say a restaurant that I went to. In fact, you know what? It was, I would say Mushia. I can never say it correctly. It was in Mushia, and I went. It was at the end of my Camino, really, because in some ways I really sort of everything I ate was just such. It was a pleasure. It was just like, I've earned this.
Food tourism, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this because of, and it was, I'm just trying to remember the name of the place. It was called, great place, would recommend it if I can just remember it. It's coming to me. Yes, Bar O Porto. That's the place. So I ordered a portion of calamari and mussels, and a large glass of gin and tonic, actually. And I just thought I was getting a small portion, but it was just the most incredible seafood. It was just incredible. And you're looking out onto the sea. It's just brilliant. You have to do it.
It's a good way to reward yourself near the end of your Camino as well. So in Mushia, Bar O Porto, it was worth waiting for there, Janine. Thanks for racking your brains for that one. Let's go on to some more of the general discussion. Money matters. How did you manage your money on the Camino?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
Lots of people ask this and are wondering how much cash they should carry and whether they accept card along the way. How did you manage it, and how was it for you?
So for me, I mean, I started in Biarritz, and I was already in a state of panic when I paid something like €25 for one night in a hostel, and that was excluding food. So it's something that I feel really, everyone, it's always good to know. So I would say places do take card. I would recommend, where you do see a cash point, use that opportunity, because for some reason, once you're up in the hills, you might not see a cash point for maybe one or 1.5 days. And if you're on your own, then it is always advisable to have cash, because I was lucky enough that I met someone that I could walk with, and we walked together for 28 days. And that again changed my experience of my Camino. But I would say if I was on my own, I think I would have done that differently, and I would have definitely carried cash, because, you don't have that person to rely on as much sometimes. I also found a really good website and app, and it's called Grons, www.grons.com. And there are plenty of apps. Grons, Gronze, Grons.
Grons.
I mean, I know there's a lot of apps out there that people might use, but this one for me was just brilliant for me. What it helped me do is it obviously provides you with a route that you've decided to do, and it provides you with a list of every accommodation and place to stay, the cost of a particular room, whether it's a donation sort of albergue or a private. And it kind of allows you then to kind of start thinking about how you're going to manage your budget. And, it gives you a bit more freedom as to, how much is this going to cost? Because, a lot of the donation albergues, you could just turn up. You couldn't just book in advance and reserve yourself a room, which again is also something to consider as well. So yeah, I would recommend Grons as an app. I tended to stay in the Donativo albergues because they were based on a donation sort of fee. That doesn't mean that they're free, but it means that there's lots of different types. Some are very basic in the sense you have a basic bed, a shower, and a place to sleep, and that's it, nothing else. So it's kind of really kind of clear as to how much money you can afford to pay for something like that. Others, they might add a communal breakfast onto that as well. So, you can sort of say, okay, I can, based on what I received, I can put towards €6 to this. I can give my donation. And, I think the key thing is, and I don't want to kind of emphasize this if you are on a budget and it's sort of free, because it's not, because, these places are sort of do need to kind of run themselves. And without that donation, a lot of these places cannot sort of manage to keep up, with electricity bills and all sorts of different things that they have to pay for. So, always just bear that in mind when you stay at them. And then obviously what I would do is I'd also mix it up by maybe staying in a few private albergs now and again, because, someone might give me a recommendation and say, it's worth going there, check it out. And also, if you have maybe formed a little group and, you feel comfortable with each other, then perhaps a private alberg split between the three of you isn't so bad, and it doesn't work out as much money as you'd expect it to be. A lot of places do have, a communal dinner and breakfast. So that can also help just sort of, working out how much you can afford and whether that's a good bit of value for money for you, or you prefer to go and eat out. When it came to breakfast, I would say, I would probably say if a place didn't serve breakfast, I'd pay probably around €6 for a café con leche and a little bit of a little bit of an omelette or something in the morning just to keep me going. When it came to, I'd say, again, buying food from a supermarket, one of the things to bear in mind is if you're walking on your own, you don't want to end up being weighed down by having so much stuff in your bag because you're planning ahead and you're buying X, Y, and Z. So just bear that in mind if you're on your own and you're going to a supermarket and you're like, right, what do I need? Try and keep it lightweight. Again, if you're with someone, it's great. You split the costs and you can buy, some cheese, tomato, baguette, some fruit and biscuits, and that keeps you going. And then when it comes to sort of lunch and dinner, this is what I loved about the Pilgrim. There are so many options where you can have a most amazing 3-course meal with wine, can I just add? And you will pay about €10 to €11 for this. So again, that's just a nice little extra thing that you can consider. If you're going to have a big lunch, then maybe you might have a light dinner to save on costs. Or if you've got the cash, you can just go big and have a lovely, amazing lunch and amazing dinner.
Yeah, you can change it. You can change it up from day to day depending on how much you've got in your budget and maybe how much you spent the day before, how long you got to go. But like you say, I think it is nice actually every now and again to mix it up, because sometimes you do get a bit tired of not having that privacy in the alberg, especially if you haven't had a good night's sleep or for any other reason. And I've just been on that website now, the grons.com. So that's GRONZE.com, and I just tapped on, for example, the Camino del Norte, and it gives you a list of places to stay, and it gives you a link to all of those places and exactly how much it costs. So that is a fantastic tool that you've given us there, Janine. Thank you so much. Grons.com. I'll put a link to that on our Facebook page. And I think our Camino coach in episode 30, Cassie, she recommended as an absolute minimum that you budget for €30 per day. Do you think that's workable for you?
Absolutely, €30. I mean,
you do it comfortably, wouldn't you, if you were doing a minimal
you
Camino?
Would.
Yeah.
I've actually worked this out. I probably spent about 1,400 to 500 for 6 weeks.
And that sounds like you were having a good time and enjoying the food and the wine and the shall we say, the gastro-tourism along the way. You were getting the most out of that. So you were definitely getting the most out of your Camino, and that's not even that much really, is it? So,
no,
but yeah.
Because I guess you have to bear in mind, actually, that's one of the most important things is you're walking so far every day and you're burning more calories than you'll ever have burnt in one day, and you will be hungry. So
that's one thing you can guarantee. Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. Now, I want to circle back to what we said at the start, Janine, if that's okay. And I don't know if there's a way you can maybe link this in. But you walked, you said, for a reason. You said it was a tower moment. You said everything just came down. Life wasn't going as you expected it to. If you're comfortable just saying exactly what that moment was and... whilst you were on the Camino, any insights you had relating to that moment, and maybe how the Camino helped you grow from that and move on to the next stage of your life? And maybe that was maybe that could be via an encounter with someone you met, or it could just be a moment of epiphany you had along the way. If you could just tell a memory or a story that all related to that.
So, I mean, what I talked about, this tower moment, I mean, it wasn't one particular thing. I think it just, we're all very different, and we all have expectations as to what we should be doing or where we should be in life. And sometimes, you can just, as a female, I mean, this is, as a woman, I think, when you get to a certain age, when you get to your 30s, there's a lot of things that, you feel like you have to have accomplished. And sometimes that's not always going to work out in the way you expected it. And it was how to deal with my expectations. How, were they too unrealistic? And one of the things that I loved about the Camino, and I think, I mean, this is part of the magic of it, is there are people you'll meet along the way who you will just be like, I don't even understand. You're really annoying. I'm trying to get away from you. I mean, I'm going to be very honest. Like, you will sometimes just be like, I just don't understand. They're still here. I've woken up at 6 a.m. to set off early, and they're still at the same place. They followed me. How have they managed to get to the same alberg as me? And there will be people that are placed in your path that I think they are there to teach you something about yourself. And that's something I will never forget, is just, it's the people you least expect on the Camino path who will give you the biggest lesson or teach you something about yourself. And
can you divulge one thing that you learned from that? One specific
I think the
lesson?
key, for me, it was quite different, actually, because the Camino for me was just the start of my journey. And it was, if anything, it allowed me to be a little bit more enlightened into opening up not having so many barriers up, and recognizing that there's not just one way of doing things in life. There are many ways that still lead to success. And yeah, it's quite a complex one, because it was, the Camino for me signified the beginning of something. It opened up my, how can I say, it gave me a freedom that I didn't understand I had. And there were many people along my path where at the time I didn't understand. And it wasn't till maybe a few weeks later, once I'd finished my Camino, it was that sinking feeling of, I get it. And knowing that, I never sort of, I never left it on bad terms with any of these people that I met, because it was just more of like an internal dialogue that I was going on inside of me. But to know that I'm still in contact with these people that I met, who I had this inner dialogue and this inner turmoil with, knowing that they gave me something really special. And that will make me, I was really grateful for that. So, yeah.
So you've mentioned that your life wasn't going how you wanted or how you expected it to. You maybe hadn't done the things that maybe society tells you should do, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's correct. What does your post-Camino life look like compared to your pre-Camino life? What changes have you made? Is there a new business set up? Is there a new job? Because you said you quit your job. What's the new Janine like?
So after the Camino, I then started the next part of my journey, which was to Argentina. Then from Argentina, I went to Brazil, and then from Brazil, I went to Colombia. Traveling, and then I came back around August, 2019, and in that time, obviously, I had so much time to process everything that I'd gone through. And it really, I realized that I couldn't go back to the same life, and I couldn't do the same things that I did before. And it was really about understanding the self and understanding who I was as a person, and giving myself that time to do it. Not everyone gets that chance, I realized. And, it's so important for us to, number one, be able to want to understand ourselves, want to understand and get to the bottom of our fears. There are plenty of people that will just not like to accept, the things about ourselves. There's so much about ourselves that we don't really kind of we kind of block off. And I had been open. I'd seen so much of myself, and I'd been put in so many situations that I couldn't ignore some things about my personality or who I was. And it really, I grew so much in that time. And I would say now I live a completely different life. I've decided to not go back to the same way of living, not go back to the same town. I still travel, and that's what I do at the moment. I travel to different places every month. I teach English online, which allows me to sort of get out and see the world. And I allow myself the chance to continue learning and seeing what's out there, and not just sort of, thinking that that's the end. I've learned everything. I don't know anymore. I continue to grow as a person by learning about where I am, who are the people that I'm meeting, and just the experiences that I gain. I just think it's incredible when I have to be able to have that opportunity. And it might not be forever. It might not be something I do forever, but for now, it feels like this is the right place and this is where I should be. So it's just very beautiful.
I like your story, Janine. I really like your story, and I'm really grateful for you sharing that with the listeners and for the podcast as well, because I think your story is very, very typical of many people's Camino journeys, from making the decision to actually walk in the Camino to the person that you evolve into, not only on the Camino but afterwards as well, because you shed that skin. For one, I know this sounds quite cheesy, but you do become another person. The person that goes on the Camino isn't always the person that comes back. For some people, they don't see those, they don't have to make those dramatic changes, but it sounded like you needed a change, you wanted a change, and the Camino gave you the confidence and the belief in yourself that you could make that changes, and you were able to see how much power you had inside you and what you were capable of, which probably before the Camino, by the sounds of it, you didn't think you could probably do. And I love the fact that you're doing something you've always wanted to do now. You travel in the world, you've got the confidence to go out and do it. You even had the confidence at the start to say, right, I'm not going to do the Frances, I'm going to do the Norte, because that sounds more like what you want to do. You were fearless from start to finish, and you took control of that. And I love your story. And there'll be so many people that are listening to this thinking, I don't like my life the way it is now. I want to make some changes. Maybe the Camino is a good thing to do, to think about where and how to make those changes. And it doesn't always have to be such a profound change at the end, but in many cases it is. And my Camino story is exactly the same as yours. From when I started, made the decision to go, to the person that came back and then I had a business, I closed it down after the Camino. I made so many massive changes. The only thing I would say is to make those changes gradually, if possible, because I made them very, very impulsively, and my world came crashing down around me because of it, and it was a dark time in my life because of that. But I'm all blood and thunder and not much brains at times, and I know that's my weakness. But I love what you're doing, and I'm chatting to you. And where are you from in the UK? I'm
from Yorkshire, actually. I'm from North Yorkshire.
Well, you don't sound like you got a Yorkshire accent, Janine. Like,
Do I not?
You sound very neutral, actually.
Yes, it's a town called Harrogate in North Yorkshire.
Okay.
Slightly different, I would say, to the rest of Yorkshire.
Can you break into a Yorkshire accent at all?
By gum.
That wasn't a Yorkshire accent. That was a posh person saying something that Yorkshire people would say. Okay. I have lots of friends from Yorkshire, and we're always having a bit of north-south banter, which is quite fun. But Janine, it's wonderful to hear your story. I'm really, really grateful for an hour of your time today. As a thank you, I'm going to send you a copy of my Camino de Santiago memoir, which is called The Only Way Is West. You'll get that via email, so keep an eye out for that. And if anyone's looking to learn English online, maybe they've got some friends that are learning English, where can they find you?
Yes. I currently work for a company online, so I'm not yet doing my own thing for that. But one of the good things that came out of the Camino is I loved the community element of walking the Camino and the trust that I found. Just the trust. It was just an incredible experience, and it really inspired me. And when I came back, because obviously I'm still business orientated in some ways, I can't let that go. I partnered up with a company called Tag and Track, and we designed a pack, which essentially it protects your valuables in case they're lost, you leave them somewhere, or you drop, anything. It's a anti-theft, lost property protection company. And what you do is you attach the little keyring with a serial number to any of your items, and if anyone finds your lost item, they can just call the number up or send an email to Tag and Track. And when I was on the Camino, I found someone's phone, and it was just in just off the track, and the phone was off. I had no way of contacting the person to say, hey, I found your phone. I don't know whose it is, because I was wanting to give it back to them. So it's these kind of sort of stories where, I still believe that there are people out there that are kind and want to help you find your lost property and give it back to you. Not everyone's out there to take it. So it's a service that we offer, and it is www.tagandtrack.com. And across April and March, we've got a 10% discount for anyone who would like to purchase the pack. And it's a great service because it lasts for 12 months, and your items can be covered, and if there is someone out there who finds them, they will be given back to you.
Janine, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, look up Tag and Track as well, Janine's company. Janine, I just want to wish you for your next Camino, whenever that may be, or the Camino through life that we're all on. Buen Camino.
Thank you.
Wanderer, a life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer.